You know, everybody's kind of moved on from the Jimmy Kimmel story, but I think late night TV is one of the most interesting aspects of the culture because it informs so much of why there's this generational divide when it comes to politics, when it comes to how people get their information, using, you know, the nature of pop culture to inform people about what your beliefs are. I actually did a video about it earlier this week, the way Trump is actually using, one might even say weaponizing pop culture to get through his agenda, whether it's through the sizzle reels the Trump administration is making to Taylor Swift songs or to Olivia Rodrigo songs, or for customs and border protection, using, you know, invoking the Batman to make content to push, you know, their agenda as well. There is pop culture being used everywhere to talk about politics, to get people familiar with their views and to push the Overton window in their direction. But Jimmy Kimmel, the main point of that discussion just a couple weeks ago had to do with the suspension. It feels like a lifetime ago. The suspension over the Charlie Kirk comments. He didn't want to apologize, and then later, you know, they offered Erica Kirk a chance to come on the show. The only way she was going to get an apology was if she came on to Jimmy Kimmel himself. And of course, we saw far leftists going and attacking television stations in which they all bent the knee and brought back the show, but they were pretending as if what we were looking at was some ridiculous First Amendment violation with dubious connections to, you know, Brendan Carr's comments, things like that. It became a whole mishgas that everybody got into, and then it disappeared as quickly as it started because they don't actually care about the First Amendment. I would actually argue these days it doesn't seem like either side actually gives a crap about the First Amendment, but that's just me. But these are comments from Jimmy Kimmel's wife, who says that she lost relationships with Trump voting family members. It says, "My husband is out there fighting this man. To me, them voting for Trump is them not voting for my husband and me and our family." Well, yes, of course, people vote for different reasons, and many people have many different reasons to vote for different candidates. And the idea that because your husband, who's supposedly a comedian by trade, though I don't think anybody's actually found it funny outside of the idea of clapter for for over a decade, the idea that other people should bend to your will and vote the way that you vote because you believe you either A, have some moral superiority to them, or B, have some insight that they themselves are not capable of grasping, is the height of annoying limousine liberal coastal bullshit that normal people can't stand. You're talking to someone who I still believe to be very much an old school liberal. I know that is tired to say, but there is plenty on the right that I disagree with, despite the circles that I run in. And the funniest part about it is I see infinitely just as much criticism of Trump, especially what's going on right now, it's just more nuanced, and it's got more bite to it because the people that are criticizing it do not have this one-track mind. Most will give credit where credit is due. Sometimes you could say that they won't necessarily always give the credit where credit is due, but most of them have very real complaints that are not fascist. I saw this from Clint Russell. I think this was earlier today or yesterday. It was yesterday. And it was just like, I was looking for it. There's a lot of stuff that there is to criticize Trump about. I, for one, do criticize the way in which the Trump administration seemed to be focusing on pop culture rather than getting through their agenda. And a lot of people are kind of tying this back to the death of Charlie Kirk. They believe that that Charlie Kirk was an anchor for the Trump administration, somebody who could, you know, talk them out of running with bad ideas, which is what we're seeing right now with maximizing H-1B visas and what they're talking about 600,000 new Chinese students coming to America, despite the fact that we want to supposedly have America first. And then you have the stuff that's going on with Kash Patel, all of those things. There are very real reasons to criticize the Trump administration, and I believe that that is something that everybody should be willing to have a conversation about. But if what you're giving me is he's a fascist, you're not telling me what you believe, you're telling me what you've been programmed to say. And I want to hear the specifics. It's the same bullshit that they ran with when they were talking about, look, he's closing the government, he's keeping your SNAP benefits from you, despite the fact that the same people then just days later, after the Democrats voted to reopen the government because they approved the continuing resolution, because they got through the elections, they got what they wanted, they admitted it was all bullshit. They were doing it because they were strong arming, because that's what they are good at. They are good at finding and executing to power. And the idea that that party can morally like blackmail me into voting the way that they do is disgusting, and you're never going to get it. And it's worse because, again, this is pop culture crisis. We're talking about Jimmy Kimmel. I grew up with Letterman. I grew up with Leno. And what I think of when I think of late night television was top 10 lists. Well, you know what a kid would have thought about a top 10 list 10 years ago? It wasn't even Jimmy Kimmel then. It was like 50 amazing facts to blow your mind with like Matthew Santoro. Stuff like that. Let's go on to some more from this article. So they go into this thing where after his suspension started, that his kids were in tears. Look, maybe I'm just callous, but I don't even believe that bullshit. Again, limousine liberal, more money than you'll ever know what to do with in your lifetime. I do not believe that your children said that they would be willing to sell their labubus to keep you guys afloat. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's true. But if it's not, fuck you. Seriously, fuck you. That's bullshit. He says, my show was suspended, and according to McNerney, our daughter immediately burst into tears, and she said, I'll sell my labubus. McNerney said that their son, Billy, asked if the president had done this. Yes, and then everybody stood up and clapped. Right? Elsewhere in the podcast, McNerney and Kimmel opened up about their challenging relationships with Trump-supporting family members as the president's feud with the late-night host escalated. Again, what role do you play in this? You push at him every night. And this is something where, like, you're blaming the FCC, and you're blaming Trump. But the idea is that you poke at him every night. Well, we don't live in the age of old anymore. You created it so by having such a one-track mind about politics. We don't have the general respect for the office anymore. Nobody does. There is no general respect for, the decorum around the office. Why should there be decorum if you're not willing to show it back because you believe that he's an evil fascist? And his point is that, no, I'm not. I think he's doing tons of shit wrong. But there are things to point to other than a government shutdown that wasn't his fault based on a continuing resolution that came from the Biden administration. So, it's all about power. It's always been about power. Let's listen to this clip here so we can hear what she was saying about this.
Thankfully, my immediate family, they did not vote for Donald Trump.
Okay.
They did the first time, a few of them. We flipped them the second time.
Thankfully, my family learned to see things exactly the way that I do. I don't take advice from people who denigrate their family members because they vote differently than you and denigrate them in public. That's disgusting.
It's weird. When Donald Trump was first elected, I was so upset. We all were. But I remember thinking, I understand it because I grew up in a very conservative Republican house. So
like a Michael Moore said, he predicted it before it even happened that Trump was going to win because he spoke to middle America.
I mean, I bought my dad a Rush Limbaugh tie in high school. I
believe that. I might believe that story even less than the kids saying that they'll sell their labubus, but, maybe I'm wrong.
I voted Republican straight ticket, and that's what I was told to do. And then
So you offloaded your voting and you offloaded your thinking to other people rather than thinking about it yourself. And now you're talking about how your family is bad for not offloading their thinking and voting the way that you want.
Left St. Louis, Missouri, and I met people from different backgrounds, and I started to understand different things and different needs and different people.
So is this the idea that because you left one area of the country, you saw different cultures? Fine. What about all cultures? Because if one of the biggest complaints here, if we're to go back to immigration, the idea here is, first of all, they're disingenuous. They never actually use the proper terminology with any of this shit. They use the word immigrant rather than illegal immigrant, and they refuse to understand or entertain the idea that illegal immigration as a whole hurts every American citizen, no matter what they look like, no matter who they love. It hurts the economy. It's awful for the people who actually come here illegally because it turns them into a form of a permanent slave class because they don't have the same rights as you or I. And while doing that, driving down the job market and making it harder for actual American citizens. And then you have to have the argument about whether the government is funding health care for illegal immigrants. And that entire discussion is based around the preposition that you're saying that it happens. Either it doesn't happen and they don't get health care ever, or they pay for it out of pocket, in which they don't have access to insurance, which makes life harder for them. Again, not a good thing. Or it does happen and that's okay, and people should just grit their teeth and bear it because, healthcare being what it was, it's already a freaking mess. Why not just let it be more of a mess? That's just one of many 10,000 issues that ring a lot truer to all citizens, not just something that's relevant because you voted, the way somebody in Missouri did at one point, or the way somebody in California did at some point.
And there's like a little bit of sympathy I have for people in my family that I feel are kind of being deliberately misinformed.
She feels bad for you because you vote differently than you. She believes that if you vote differently than her, you must be stupid.
Every day, and
not kind of.
Yeah. They're deliberately being misinformed every day.
Kind of like when Jimmy Kimmel comes on air and uses a bunch of mealy-mouthed weasel words to say that MAGA spent the whole weekend trying to pretend like Charlie Kirk's shooter was anything other than MAGA. That type of misinformed, those things.
And they believe it. But it hurts me so much because of the personal relationship.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to go back here. Bear with me, guys. Bear with me here while I find this. I want to double check on this really quick. Let's go. Jimmy Kimmel, Charlie Kirk. What was it? Right.
We had some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger...
Those types of weasel words? Those types of weasel words where they ran with the idea that he lets you believe, he leads you to the idea that he was by saying that they were pretending that he wasn't. That type of bullshit. It's like you can't. The BBC about to get sued for $1 billion because you don't know how to not lie in the media. And that's just actual news, not just the pop culture side of things, which is even more bullshit. And then you get this. And this is how I'm going to finish this segment, because this is what really tied it all together to me, which was a clip from Stephen Colbert, who's, of course, just as bad as Jimmy Kimmel. Let's listen to what he has to say about what his job is as a late-night TV host, a comedian, a guy who's supposed to put celebrities on his show and talk to them. Let's listen to what he has to say.
I'm curious what you feel like the great affirmative case is for a show like yours.
Why should shows like mine continue to exist, or like Kimmel or Jimmy or whatever?
And I said everyone plays with great affection, which is why I'm saying
I said, why? Oh, we're like your friend who at the end of the day paid attention to the news more than you did. And you're aware.
No, you paid attention to the side of the news that you care about, that confirms your worldview. You should be introducing yourself to arguments that disagree with your worldview just as much. And if you were being honest about everything that you said about this, you wouldn't report news 100% negative all the time. Sorry, 90% negative all the time. You would give credit where credit is due. That is the crazy thing about all of this to me. If you wanted to give people a reason to trust you just a little bit, stop setting people's bullshit meter off. If you report everything as negative all the time from one person, people are liable to be like, well, that can't be true. Right? It doesn't pass the smell test for anyone. Like people were saying, like, look, I don't like Mamdani, but he's gonna win. They knew he was gonna win before it even happened when the polling started, because they said, look, I don't agree with his policies, but the dude is running an incredible campaign, right? Are you saying anything like that? Like, is there anything in the lines of something middle or close to down the middle of the road for you? If not, it's not news, which isn't your job anyways. It's just bullshit propaganda.
You just didn't do the detail work that we did. And then
You have 100 writers. You didn't do any detailed work. You employ hundreds of people to tell you what to say so that you can tell other people what to think.
We curate that back to you at the end of the day. but it's really more about how we feel about it, or I, as the person who is the vehicle for that, how we felt about today. All those things that might have made you confused or angry or...
Are you confused about the news? Do you not know how you should feel about the news today, sir? In the, boomer that's watching my, low-rated network television talk show that nobody cares about anymore? Do you not know how you feel about the news today? Well, allow me to feel and think for you. Allow me to tell you what your opinion and your emotional response should be to this topic. There's nothing nefarious about that at all. I can't imagine why people have started to distrust the media, and that doesn't just go for one side of the aisle. It doesn't matter whether it's CNN, it doesn't matter if it's Fox News, MSNBC. People do not trust it anymore, and they're going to independent commentators, and even then, you should not rely on one person to tell you what to think. It's like when I talk about movie reviews, right? I find a couple of people whose opinions I seem to feel like in the past, I've watched their reviews, I've seen the movies they're talking about, and I tend to generally agree or disagree with them, and I will use them as a gauge for whether I will maybe or maybe not like this movie based on past experience. You should not be relying on any late night show host. I was going to say any one late night show host to tell you what to think and feel about politics. You should look into this stuff on your own, and late night shows should get back to making top 10 lists and joking around with celebrities. You're still a dying medium, and you're going to go the way of the dinosaur and in less time that you think, as people move to, chicken shop date or hot wing or hot ones, whatever it may be. You're a dinosaur, a product of a bygone age, designed to make boomers angry because they can offload their confirmation bias onto you, which you will then parrot back to them. It's not real. It's not even political analysis. You're just telling people what to think and feel when what you should be doing is making people laugh. That's it for this one, guys. Pop Culture Crisis is the podcast. Sorry for getting a little bit over on this one. It's very annoying. Pop Culture Crisis, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's noon Pacific. Hope to see you there, guys. Later. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.